Yeah, and I think what we were talking about earlier was it's going to be very helpful with defense, but I'll use the word yet in front of offense. We'll see where that goes, watch it, but I think the hacker culture has a good contribution to come. We're still going to be alive, still going to be looking at attacks from different angles, using our creativity.
Yeah. As I said, creativity is the main keyword.
Yes.
Being a hacker, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You have to be creative if you want to be a hacker.
Yeah, yeah.
Currently, we don't think the AI chatbots and other places have that creativity as element. Maybe they have a lot of data, they can analyze it, they can predict some information out of it.
Yeah.
But the curiosity and the creativity part that we all as a hacker have, that is something which is still missing out there.
Yeah.
So totally
Can't take it away from us yet.
I think
we'll fight for it.
this sort of brings me back to, when Jeff brought up about AI, and I was like, I'm less excited about that, just really from a offensive perspective, because I'm not sure Skynet will come at some point, but right now I don't think it's the main problem. And when you have a look at the presentations that were presented yesterday and will be presented today, as well as Jeff said, we get a very unique benefit of being able to see all of the submissions that come through as well, which are awesome, by the way, even if you didn't get in. And one of the things that you just have to realize when you're looking at all of these attacks is that the actual attacks haven't changed much over the last 20 years. Yes, there's new exploits, and we're seeing great exploits and great attacks and research that are being presented at the conference. But when you look at real-world attacks, they're very opportunistic, financially motivated attackers for the large majority of things. But when you break down, even in the presentations we see, and I saw an awesome one yesterday that stood out, which was the OT lateral movement presentation, where basically it was breaking through chained OT devices into chained PLCs to be able to, force a bridge to smash down and ignore its sort of safety, limitations and things, right? Awesome concept, awesome presentation. But then when you have a look at the actual attacks, they're, FTP user format string, bug. There was a authentication hijack, and there was a buffer overflow, right? Simplifying his presentation massively, but at the end of the day, they're the same things that we've seen, over the last 2 decades. So when you start looking at the attacks that are actually happening,
it's not inventing new classes of vulnerabilities.
No, that's right. Like a new vulnerability comes out, and you see it massively get sprayed across the internet with a new exploit that's created, right? Like it's not AI that's going and sort of downloading massive amounts of software and automatically getting exploits and going and hitting the net. It's very opportunistic, targeted. They don't care really who they're breaking into. They break into anyone to be able to then leverage that to extort them, right, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I really agree that we are having a lot of incremental research on our submission. And one thing I want to talk about related to ChatGPT is that I'm also reviewing Black Hat USA, and I saw a ChatGPT generated submission this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. So how we know that is that submitter included the reply message from the ChatGPT, including the output from the ChatGPT. So you're based on your input, your submission outline should be blah blah blah, and submitter just copy and paste that in a submission. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing we're kind of dancing around to, or we're talking about, is, I guess that a lot of the quality of the output is based on the quality of the input, the data that's input. And in our keynote yesterday was kind of a rare glimpse into how China government thinks about data. And that's the first time I've really seen a comprehensive view of sort of the summation of the principles or the ideology of China distilled into how are we going to structure data? How are we going to protect data? What's important? What's the data that's important? And it's the first time I saw that sort of three-tier, personal data, corporate data, sort of like a government data, and how they overlapped. And I don't think I've really seen that in other governments. And it seems like a huge, I mean, what was your impression sort of on the keynote, or any sort of takeaways or insights?
Look, my impression I got from the keynote was really the complexity of the security controls that he presented in the data attack framework, which had
that was interesting.
looks like
Sort of like ATT
controls.
attack, but for data.
Yeah, and I was looking at it just going, this is just for data, and I'm thinking, how the hell are my clients going to go and implement any of this when they don't even know where the data is, or they think it's in their database, but then,
Right.
it's actually sitting on like 30 different, laptops because of different people, whether it's a DBA or an application developer or something like that's got a copy of the
and it
data.
just migrated from east to west, to data center.
Yeah, and like when you look at real world security breaches, again, they're opportunistic. They're going after whatever is the easiest way to get as much valuable data to then extort you, right? And that can be sitting on someone's laptop, right? It doesn't have to be in the highly secured vault of, with all these 15,000 data controls around it. So I think very impressive if they're the controls that they've got in place or they're working towards. That's awesome. In reality, I think, it comes back to what I was saying before, lack of resources, lack of knowledge. I just can't see a lot of most organizations even getting close to something like that.
Do we have any thoughts on how that data classification can be clubbed with the AI thing that we were discussing earlier? So we have like a lot of unstructured data, right? Can we use the AI models that we're talking about, like GPT, large language models? Can they classify the data for us? Because obviously one government is specifically doing that, but how do others do that?
And data is so context specific.
Exactly. Context specific, language, country, may change a lot of things.